Are you ready? You know it's coming. So let's dive in. Here we go. Module 2.3. How tolerant were the New World colonies? Okay, toleration. We know this word. Toleration means that you can deal with people. We know this word all the time in New York City. You know, I'm sitting in traffic and that taxi cab just cut me off. I have to take a deep breath, internalize it, and say, no, I'm not going to get out of my car, and I'm not going to drag this guy out. And you know how it goes. All right? So in New York City, we have to be very tolerant of other people. There's all kinds of people here, and sometimes they're going to do things that we don't like. And we just have to learn how to work together with everybody. Now, toleration can go to a lot of different things. Sometimes you don't like people because of certain things they do. Other times that you don't like people because of certain beliefs that they have, or simply who they are. Well, the truth is that all kinds of bigotry and hatred exist in the world. But toleration is going to be an important thing. Do we accept it? Do we go with it? Do we kind of let it rock, so to speak? That's toleration. So the question is, how tolerant were the New World colonies? Focus question today is, were the Puritans justified in trying to protect their religious practices? We'll get back to that in a little bit. All right, so today we're going to focus mainly on New England, but I'm also going to bring in a couple other colonies, as we'll see, just because they kind of make sense to do so. So, let's do a little recap, okay? This is going to be the original 13 colonies, right? It's mainly going to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States. We got to remember from our first module that there is a geographic feature that goes right down to here that's going to kind of cut off the colonies from expanding any further. What was that geographic feature? You know it? Come on, I see you thinking there. You know this. I'll give you a hint. They're mountains. No, not the Rocky Mountains. Those are over there. These are the Appalachian Mountains. The Appalachian Mountains are going to kind of cut off settlement from this area for now. So that's why most of the colonies are going to be kind of on the eastern seaboard. The borders kind of mirror the Appalachian chain for the Appalachian Mountains. Okay? We break the colonies into basically three different types. Up here in the north, we have New England. Then we have the middle colonies, and then we have the southern colonies. Okay, now we talked about the southern colonies already. The primary motivation there is going to be economic. People are going to make money. Fertile land, plantation agriculture is going to develop, tobacco being the king crop in the beginning. Georgia's kind of going to be the exception in the beginning. They start off as a prison colony. How nice. Okay, New England, we learned yesterday, the main motivating factor for New England is going to, of course, be religious freedom. Puritans are going to be fleeing England, and they're going to be going for a place to practice their own religious beliefs. And as we learned yesterday, Calvinists and Puritans kind of have some pretty extreme beliefs. You know how you like to just jam out listening to bachata and just dance away in your kitchen? Yeah, if you were a Puritan, that'd be a sign that you were not a godly chosen one and you were going to hell. You were going to suffer your eternal damnation. God had predestined you to go and serve in fiery damnation, so don't even think about it. You have to enjoy your 4 bare walls in a sermon, and that is simply that. Now, as nice and pleasant as that sounds, they were in charge of the New England colonies, and especially Lake Massachusetts Bay, which was their stronghold. So, because they were in charge, they make the rules, and in order to guide them in making the rules, they looked at the Bible and their very strict interpretation of the Bible, and the rules become laws, and laws are going to be passed by these colonial legislatures that are going to promote their religious beliefs in New England. And we call these laws today blue laws. Blue laws are kind of morality laws. Okay, and we're going to talk about in a second, they still kind of have an impact over people today. All right, so basically, they are inspired by religious beliefs and restrict behaviors seen as ungodly. Okay, so in New Haven, which is in Connecticut, Connecticut's considered part of New England, a young couple was fined for kissing in public. That's right. You know who I'm talking to. That thing you do in the hall with your boyfriend just before you go to class every period. Yeah, not allowed. It's against the law. Of course, you can't drink. Okay? That's the devil's water. Can't do that. No dancing. And, of course, Sunday being the Sabbath, the holy day that we have to keep holy for God, you can't go and, open a business, so you can't go shopping on Sunday. Now, these laws, as archaic, which is a fancy way of saying, like, old and out of time, they still exist, okay? A lot of, for instance, like, bars. For a long time, bars could not be open on Sunday. And even today in New York State, you cannot buy alcohol on Sunday until a certain time. That's a remnant of the old blue laws. Talking about alcohol, New York City, closing time for bars is 4 a.m. 4 a.m. is the limit legally when bars and places can sell alcohol. You cannot buy alcohol in New York City after 4 a.m. And then I don't think you can buy again until like noon or something like that. Well, just for instance, in Boston, which is this major city in Massachusetts, where the Puritans had the stronghold, it's 1 a.m. today. Okay. These are remnants of blue laws. There's even some states where you can't buy alcohol at all on Sundays. All right, and so this is kind of the remnants here, and they still exist in some form or another. So there's some other blue laws here that this comes from later, but you can enjoy reading those. They're nice and fun. I think there's even, like no games or races, you can't gamble and all that stuff. So all the fun stuff. I shouldn't say that. All right, next time. Now, very strict laws. You have laws governing morality, what you can and can't do. Okay, teenagers, think for a second. I'm going to tell you what you can't do. What is the first thing that comes to your head? Mister, why not? Exactly. All right. So they try to pass morality laws in Massachusetts, and of course you're going to have dissenters. You're always going to have people that don't agree with it, even in Puritan Massachusetts. Okay? So, Massachusetts is a Puritan... Massachusetts, we know, is a Puritan colony. Quakers, who are another Protestant religion, did their own thing. They didn't obey the Puritan clergy. And the Puritans in Massachusetts said, okay, you don't want to go by our rules, you're gone. They banished them out of Massachusetts and they go start their own colony in Pennsylvania. More than that, let's talk about Puritans themselves. Besides just people who disagree religiously, with the scripture. Anne Hutchinson, the same Anne Hutchinson that the Hutchinson River Parkway is named after. She was a woman that was ahead of her time. Okay, incredibly, incredibly smart. And she saw all these rules, and she's like, why? And she had, she was so smart, she was kind of too smart for her own good, and she started taking a look at, what the Puritans were saying and what they were basing it on. And she liked to have fun with them. You know, she was an intellectual, so intellectual people can sometimes have games that they play where, you know, they will ask questions of non-intellectual people or people who are basically saying things that are ludicrous if you really think about them, and basically just ask questions to expose the stupidity of it and basically make the person saying it feel stupid. The first person to really do this was Socrates. Well, Anne Hutchinson was kind of like that. And she took a look at Puritan beliefs and she said, now, wait a minute, okay, let me get this straight. So God has already determined who is going to heaven and who's going to hell. But you gotta live a perfect life to prove to other people that you're one of those chosen people, that you have no idea if you're one of those chosen people. So you can live a pure life 100% and be an amazing person, but if God has already determined that you're going to hell, you're going to hell, who cares? Okay, meanwhile, you have somebody who lies, cheats, steals, rapes, whatever. And if God already determined them to be a righteous soul and they're going to heaven, well, then it doesn't matter what they do in life. So she started, like, really poking fun at this stuff. And she saw these, like, laws as ludicrous. So they put her on trial. And basically at the trial she made a mockery of the judges and the prosecutors, and she made them feel stupid. And of course, you know, they, when confronted with, you know, somebody that says something they don't like or says something that goes against their teaching, kind of like the Quakers, she got banished and she was sent down to the Bronx. And that's why we have the Hutchinson River Parkway named after her today. So the Bronx is it is going to be a place where rebels go since the 1600s. Cool or what? All right. It's not all. So the strict puritanical upbringing of the colonists is going to come to a loggerheads when those kids start having kids, right? Okay, kids, your parents have rules. Your parents raise you a certain way. Your parents tell you what to do and what not to do. And all your life, you're living with your parents' rules. And you're being a good kid. Then you become a teenager. And your parents are got all those rules. They tell you what you can and can't do. What do you do? That's right. You start to ask questions. You start to rebel. So these new generations are not going to be exactly as religious as the old generations. Ma, what do you mean I gotta go to church all day and like sit in four bare walls and just listen to the sermon and listen to the guy tell us about how we're all damned and going to hell and how I can't dance and how I can't go out on Sundays and how I can't do anything or anything like that, how I have to wear very simple clothes and I can't do anything. Yeah. So those people were not so religious. Now, people were looking for people to blame because these young people, well, why aren't these young people as religious as we are? Why, you know, is the devil coming in? Yeah, it must be the devil making these people do it. But so the devil has to have agents here on earth. Witches. There are witches in our midst. And the devil is influencing them, and they're getting into the heads of our young people and telling them that they can listen to music and dance and all that stuff. Not cool. So in 1692, 20 men were accused of being witches. Now, these are going to be known as the Salem witch trials. These accusations were very tenuous. Basically, somebody didn't like you, they accused you of being a witch, and you went on trial. Now, if you're put on trial for being a witch, yeah, so it's pretty much a fait accompli. You can either, you know, go on trial, and if you're speaking in your defense, then the devil, they're going to say, oh, well, the devil's speaking through them, and they don't claim and they don't plead guilty and throw themselves on the mercy of the court, or give the names of other people who are witches that are doing it. Well, then they're still evil and they must be killed. Or they can be put through an ordeal. And an ordeal is, um, you know, if we burn them and they don't die, then they must be a witch. Yeah, think about that. So 20 people or 20 women are going to be killed, men and women actually, for witchcraft. Today, we use the term witch hunt to be somewhere to that's a meaningless crusade, where basically somebody accuses somebody of something and their lives are ruined because of it. This happened in the early 1950s during the height of the Cold War, when Senator Joseph McCarthy was basically accusing everybody of being communist, and lots of lives were ruined. People weren't killed at that time, but lots of lives were ruined. Here's another great little picture of the Salem witch trials, you know, getting thrown into stocks. Yeah. Okay, now, what about the people that don't go along with the program? Okay, one of those people in Massachusetts is going to be a minister from Salem named Roger Williams. Roger Williams, he's going to push for a break with the Church of England. He's going to establish his own charter. Now, he wanted a charter first in New England. That didn't happen, so he goes off and he flees to Rhode Island. He's kind of like a rebel. He builds a Baptist church, not a Puritan church in Providence, and he establishes complete freedom of religion in Rhode Island for everybody, including Jews and Catholics and Quakers and other outcasts. Basically, the people that couldn't make it in New England, the people that were too radical, the people that were pushing like messages that didn't go along with the program, they go to Rhode Island. And Rhode Island becomes known as Rogues Island. And a rogue is somebody who doesn't go along with the program, or a rebel. So Rogues Island kind of is the bastion for these people that don't fit in with the program in Puritan New England. Now, going outside of New England, I also want to talk about Maryland a little bit. Because Maryland kind of goes in with the religious toleration aspect of it. Maryland's going to be founded in 1632. That's when they get the charter, but they don't actually establish the city until 1634. George Calvert is the founder. It's going to be the first proprietary colony in British North America. Proprietary colonies means that it has a proprietor. It has a sole person who basically owns it and runs it in the beginning, instead of being ruled by a company or having a charter, as the New England colonies did, by a religious group. Now, Lord George Calvert goes by his official title. He is the Lord Baltimore. That name should sound familiar because the city of Baltimore, Maryland, is named after him. He was a Catholic. And Maryland is going to be established as a place of religious freedom for Catholics, which is very big because Catholics, there's still a huge population of Catholics in England at the time. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about the Glorious Revolution. There's actually a civil war that's going to be fought between Catholics and Protestants in England, amongst other things. And they have a sizable majority, but of course they're outlawed, not being Anglicans. So he's going to establish a Catholic colony. It's going to be established for trade. They did find some precious metals. They had water passage to the continent. It's on the side of rivers, and you're also on the Chesapeake Bay. It's in the south, so the land is good, so it becomes a good tobacco trading city. And we talked about how it is a proprietary colony. Now, things don't stay the same for long. So, yes, it starts out as a Catholic haven, but it's not only Catholics that move there. In fact, a lot of Puritans are actually going to move down there looking for opportunities. And, of course, it's got a Catholic government, and the Catholic government's passing Catholic laws, and they're going to run into problems with the Protestant people that are underneath them. So, taking a different approach, in 1649, the Catholic governor, Lord Baltimore, puts out the Maryland Act of Toleration. Okay? Basically, what this does is Maryland Act of Toleration. This law is going to grant freedom of worship for all Catholics, and it should be all Christians. So if you're a Christian, you can go down there in Maryland and you can practice your religion freely. So it doesn't matter if you're Catholic, if you're Protestant, it doesn't matter if you're Puritan, Quaker, Shaker, what have you. You can practice your religion freely there. All right, now, this is important. You're going to want to take a picture of this. You're going to want to download this. You're going to want to commit this here. And I'll probably also find a way to get this to you electronically. This is kind of a chart that shows the colonies, when they're founded, the name, where they are, what kind of government they had, what type of religion they had, the trade and economic activity they had, and the famous people to start there. So we have Virginia, we know that's Southern, so Royal Colony. They were Anglican and Baptist, good Anglicans, and they're going down to make that money off those plantations. We're going to talk about the middle colonies next week. There's Massachusetts Bay with our good friend John Winthrop. It's a Royal Provincial Charter, Puritan, and then they got shipbuilding. Then here comes Maryland, Southern, the first proprietary colonies, and they are Catholics, Anglicans, and Baptists. And then they got a little bit of agriculture plus trade. Calvert, First Lord Baltimore, that's him. Rogues Island in 1636. Roger Williams, oh yeah, Miss Anne Hutchinson, after being exiled in New York, she moves up to Rogues Island because she fits in there just fine. Puritan religion, but everybody's welcome. Yeah, rum exporting, come on, Rogues Island. Then we got Connecticut in 1636. They're going to be a Puritan offspring of Massachusetts. New Hampshire is pretty much going to be the same. Delaware we're going to talk about next week, and then we're going to talk about these guys. So this is kind of the colonies in a nutshell. We're going to talk about the rest of these guys next week. Let's go back up here to our focus question to end it off. All right, so focus question. Were the Puritans justified in trying to protect their religious practices? Remember, the Puritans came to America to establish a religious haven so they could practice their religion the way they wanted to. They wanted to create basically their version of heaven on earth, and when people weren't with the program, they got rid of them. Okay? Are they justified in that? Do they have their right to have their own colony and dictate what their colony should be like, or shouldn't they? Should they be more open to everybody? That's the question I want you to chew on for the homework. This one is more open-ended. I want a thesis. I want you to take a stand. I don't want any of this, well, it could be this, I could see the point there, so it's both. No. A thesis is not both. A thesis is an argument. I want you to pick one side of this, and I want you to give me an argument. Back it up with evidence and support yourself. Let's see what you can come up with. Drive it home. Impress me. Okay, people, there it is. That's your module. Have a great night.